It looks like it's 4:30, and we've gone live on Facebook. Caroline, can you confirm we are live and
we are
also
live
on Zoom?
Facebook? Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
So,
Well, let's
welcome.
yes, welcome everyone.
Welcome. This is episode 5 of Lost Summer, MCBC's Lost Summer, and we're on this week with Easton Overland. So we have a big crew this week. It's going to be a party hour with the squad of Easton Overland. Matt Hornland is our fearless leader. Michael Vanderham is everyone's favorite Canadian, who we may lose because he is traveling 20 hours
through Canada.
Caitlin Bernstein's joining us from Vermont, and Matt Lieto is joining us from Bend, Oregon. So welcome to the team. And before we dive into this, Kaiser is going to kind of give us a rundown of what the show is.
Come on, you're supposed to call me your sidekick, Caroline.
Sidekick. I'm sorry, it's weird. I'm usually your sidekick, so.
I'm no sidekick. Hey, everyone, thanks for joining us, as Caroline said. Just a quick reminder, this is for the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. This is a fundraiser, and this is a way of also celebrating the beautiful place where we live and ride all the time. So while you're on here, if you get a chance to look away, or if you're at your computer, please go to marinbike.org/Lost Summer. There's more information on the celebrity interview series, but there's also a place to donate. Please contribute. We also have a giveaway during this series. We have a lot of great sponsors giving some wonderful product. Easton is also a sponsor of the Easton Overland Team, has contributed a lot of components, beautiful gear. Velocio's got clothing, or Knott's offered clothing. The grand prize is donated by Mike's Bikes here in Marin County, California. It's the brand new 2021 Specialized Verge Pro Carbon Bicycle. It's fully equipped with Eagle Axis. It's got 9er wheels with 47 mil tires, and it's an amazing, beautiful bike. Retail on that something like $6,500. It only costs you $10 per entry. So please support Marin County Bicycle Coalition. And we also are giving 25% of all our proceeds to the Canal Alliance and Marin Senior Services. So help out in any way you can. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Caroline and her teammate buddies, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, and just real quick too, huge shout out and thanks to Dolan Law Firm, Bay Area Bicycle Law, the New Wheel, and Marin Cyclists, who are series sponsors. And this episode is sponsored by Easton Cycling. So if you need a new set of wheels, handlebars, whatever, go check out Easton Cycling. We're all big supporters, but we might be slightly biased to the so yeah, I'm gonna step on Kaiser's toes and do our normal first question, and we'll throw it to everyone's favorite Canadian, Michael Vanderham first. Where'd you ride today?
Oh, all right. So this morning, I'm on a road trip right now. So I had just a little ride window. So I actually went mountain biking on my local mountain, which is better. Did like an hour and a half kind of quick lap. So nothing too exciting. Nothing that I don't do on a really regular basis, but the best thing I always feel that you can do for a road trip is like get a ride in. Or get
always sounds like that.
Did we already lose me?
No.
Losing you.
No talking.
We'll go to the other Canadian. So Matt.
No more Michael.
You're good, Michael.
I would fill in for what Michael did. What we do in Canada is we wake up and we ride a mountain pretty much every day because that's all we have. We have these giant mountains. I'm making an assumption, but yeah, sounds like Michael went mountain biking. I did not go mountain biking. I did a dry run of my bikepacking gear. This weekend I'm going out with a friend of mine to do a 450K loop of gravel out to Pemberton and then back down to Vancouver. We're carrying everything we can with us, clearly, because we're not stopping anywhere. So yeah, just trying to make sure that all of my gear fits on my bike. But yeah, basically the same overland setup I run for races, and got to ride that. I generally ride it every day to commute into the office here at Easton.
Nice. Caitlin, what about you?
I did kind of a recovery ride. I'm doing like some block training So I'm in between a couple blocks, and I rode over, I'm in Waitsfield, Vermont right now, where I grew up, just back visiting for the summer. So the road that I grew up on is called East Warren Road, and it's part of the Green Mountain Stage Race, one of the stages. And so I rode up that. I stopped at my parents' house to say hi, and my mom had just made chocolate cake. So I had some chocolate cake on my ride, and then continued to climb up for another 45 minutes or so, and kind of did a loop through the valley. So recovery ride, but everything's hilly here, and everything has a little bit of dirt, so it keeps it interesting.
Nice. And then Matt Lieto, what's the happening in Bend?
I'm glad that we all rode our bikes today. This would have been embarrassing if somebody took the day off. I've actually been riding mountain bikes more than anything recently, but today I felt like my Cervelo Sparrow was a little bit neglected, so I went on a spin in kind of a zone that is close to town that we all kind of take for granted, and then took a different turn than I've ever taken before, in a zone that I've probably ridden 100 times, and found a road that I don't know anybody that's ridden before, and kind of had a new ride in an old zone. That's pretty stoked. 2 hours. Nice. It was rowdy. It kind of sucked, but it was cool to go somewhere new.
Cool. So if you're not familiar with the Easton Overland team, what's really cool about this program is we all have our own unique bike sponsors, which brings our own flair. And Matt is the fearless leader of this program. So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, so, Overland being essentially a version of a factory team for Easton, a lot of the bikes are getting equipped in sort of similar fashion. So something that was really great was that Easton has a lot of really interesting OEM partners, bike brands that fit people's different styles. So the idea that we would maybe have sort of a unique facet where the riders are all riding a different bike that sort of suits their style was something that we sort of spearheaded this year. Folks such as yourself, Michael Vandenham, having relationships in cyclocross and mountain means that you already have some relationships with bike brands as well. So, in my case, I stayed with Allied for the year, which was one of our original partners for Overland. Michael Vandenham carries through his Giant sponsorship, which is part of his cyclocross, the Easton Giant team. So then, you have these cool opportunities to build bikes out slightly differently too. Craig being on Da Vinci, as well as Caitlin, they're pretty shreddy, big tired, mountain bike informed gravel bikes. And then, of course, Lieto has to be on a Tri Company's gravel bike, right?
I knew that was coming.
It was really soft. I wasn't even that hard on you.
I'm waiting for more.
Yeah, but I'll let everybody else can introduce their. I just figured I'd speak for Michael since we've lost him into the Rockies already. But yeah, the idea that having these different partners, and then also sort of like, because we're multi-format athletes, like none of us really, like, gravel's this emerging, if you will, but it's like something that we've all done, and we race cross and get out on these sort of adventure rides as something different than what we used to do, and being able to have different bikes suited to different people is kind of fun like that. So.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, like you were saying, it's for Caitlin and I, we're new to the team this year. Matt Lieto is one of the OG on the team, but it's been kind of cool to kind of have these relationships, and we all come from such different backgrounds. And that's actually something I kind of want to talk about. Like, Caitlin comes from a ski racing background. And if you've ever followed this girl down the mountain on a mountain bike or on skis or on a gravel bike, she's the most fearless person I've ever met in my life. And it's kind of terrifying, but it's kind of like perfect that she's like on this Da Vinci. Yeah.
Yeah, the Da Vinci bikes have been amazing this summer. I've been riding their gravel bike, which is somewhat newer. And I think they kind of introduced it at the Grinduro Canada last year. And it's definitely like geometry that comes from a mountain bike brand. And that bike just like shreds on dirt. It's so much fun. But it also climbs super well. I I could only bring a couple bikes to Vermont. So I brought my mountain bike and my gravel bike, and have been riding the gravel bike a lot on the roads. And the climbs here are incredibly steep, like some of the steepest, we call them gaps, out here, and some of the steepest roads in the country. And that bike has been so much fun for all the climbing and all the dirt roads, and then also for like the class 4 kind of adventures where there used to be a road there many years ago. And if you look close enough, it still goes through. There's a lot of those kind of cool connections out here in Vermont. And then also was super stoked to get a mountain bike from Da Vinci. Was really excited because it was the perfect bike for Downeyville, but haven't been riding or racing there. Won't be racing there this year, obviously, but brought that bike out here with me, and it's been amazing to see how it handles like all of the rooty trails out here, just as well as the more open, rocky, looser stuff out west. So super versatile. And I think I was a little bit nervous last year when I first started talking to Da Vinci about like thinking of it as a really like enduro kind of brand, just because like the riders that I know or have seen a lot of, are racing enduro on those bikes. But the way that I have it built up with the Fox and Race Face, like carbon race face, and the Shimano components, like it's actually super light and climbs amazingly well, and has just been such a fun bike overall. And I've gotten so much more confident riding so many different trails on it. So definitely have a lot of great things to say about those bikes.
Yeah, and then in case you missed it before, Matt Lieto comes from a triathlon background, so he's one of those. Can you talk a little bit how you transitioned over to gravel, and you've had some pretty good accolades now racing gravel, obviously, but it was a kind of a circuitous route to get there for you.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's the good thing that one of my character flaws / strengths is being self-deprecating, or else I wouldn't have any of the friends that I do, because triathlete is the scarlet letter in the bike scene. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been, since moving to Bend almost 20 years ago, in the wintertime, we'd ride cross bikes, and that's what you'd ride to be able to get miles in. So riding on gravel and dirt is probably more of a accurate term for what we have around here, a lot of double track dirt roads and some forest logging roads. But that's always been kind of a thing that I did while training for triathlon, just a lot of long miles on either a road bike on gravel or a cross bike in the wintertime on gravel. So for me, I was always comfortable on one of those bikes, and I always felt like I always wished there was a discipline that was that scene. Like cross wasn't going to be that for me, because there's just too much going on, like jumping off and off the bike. It's just too much. I can't do it. For me, that wasn't an option, but I always felt like I felt really strong on gravel because I'm a bigger rider. But in gravel, it's not really a power to weight ratio thing. It's just a power thing. So even on climbs, even though I'm a little heavier at 175 pounds, I can still kind of hang because you're working against that resistance a little bit. So anyways, I think after triathlon was done, cycling's always been my passion. Just turns out I'm mediocre at 3 sports, and that allowed me to be a professional in triathlon. And no way I could have made it in the road scene or anything like that. So I was racing gravel probably the last 3 years of my triathlon career, just kind of because it was fun and I like riding bikes more than anything else. And turns out training for 5-hour time trials makes you pretty good at gravel, because in the end, it's whoever's strongest the last hour, and who can kind of absorb different efforts. So it's been super fun. And for me, the biggest thing about riding bikes and sport in general is being around new people and making new relationships. And I think gravel racing has been quite a surprise. And one of actually talking to Chris earlier, like one of the examples of that was RPI. The first year, Rebecca had some guinea pigs out to test out a stage race, and was able to meet Chris and a bunch of other folks. And it's like, man, it's every time I go to a race, as long as I make time, I have like a dozen or two new phone numbers in my phone when I'm gone. And like, that's what I love about gravel. So for me, and all of this in spite me being a former triathlete. So obviously very gracious people.
That mustache must really just pull in the phone numbers, hey?
It really does. It really does. Sympathy phone numbers. Yeah.
I was really expecting to be, you know, having been a dyed-in-the-wool roadie since the 80s, I was thinking I would be making all the deprecating remarks about triathletes, but you've really, I guess you've heard them all, Matt, so you're doing a much better job than I ever could.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So something I want to point out, thanks for pointing out your sponsors and all that, but that spirit that you said that we found at RPI, Rebecca's, that 3-day thing, I used to race in a sport, what we're not going to mention because it's going to ask too many questions, but you know, we become so insular, and it's your team, your clique, and you know, even though you're a traveling circus, you're seeing the same competitors weekend after weekend. There wasn't a ton of mixing because we were so intense. And one thing that I've really appreciated that I've seen about the gravel scene is how closely everybody gets along. You know, we're complete enemies on the road, but we're also friends, and we'll stop and help each other out. You guys, I imagine that's a really attractive part of the sport to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, for me, that's been a huge part of it. And I think it's gravel, you know, has turned into more of a race format, right? Like we're going to this place, we're going to race, and whoever finishes first wins. And that's one of the goals. But I think originally, and still for a lot of us, it's the adventure of that race course and what's out there, right? And we're all out there for the same thing. So, you know, when I've done Lost and Found and Mid-South, races like that, even in the middle of a race where at the end, all of us want to do better, if I see a guy drop a bottle and I've got an extra, I'll hand him the bottle. And I've had that happen to me at Mid-South last year. And it's like, it's one of those things that we're all in the adventure and we all want to see each other get through the adventure. And then like when it comes down to the race at the end, yeah, that's important too. But I think there's a lot more people in gravel that are there because they enjoy the journey and the people they meet along the way. Yeah,
and it's funny, you mentioned all your years of racing triathlon, and you've had a long career, and that it's something else you can pursue a little bit longer and maybe not take as much pounding out of your body as the swimming and the running demand. And with Caitlin, you transitioned to cycling from skiing, which is notoriously difficult on the human body, and everyone in skiing goes to cycling. Can you tell us a little bit about your transition while you're at university? I guess you're an alpine skier and you went to Nordic, right?
Yeah. So it's been kind of a long transition. But as a kid, growing up in Vermont, like there's not a lot to do in the winter. So I picked up skiing as soon as I could walk. And I did a lot of skiing, like both downhill and cross country. I loved downhill, like that was my first true love in sports. I loved going fast, and for a while, like I got into racing, I don't know, probably when I was 5 or 6, like as soon as you could, and like had a lot of great results, and also kind of grew early. So I was like the tall kid, and kind of won a lot of races when I was young, hitting like middle school. And then the injuries started really early for me in downhill ski racing. So by the time, and I was still on the track, I went away to high school to a ski academy to pursue ski racing on the downhill track. And by the time I hit my junior year and had already had 3 knee surgeries, was like, maybe it's time to rethink this. And my doctor at the time was like, if you want to be able to walk when you're 30, you need to do something else. And so I luckily took that seriously. But also like my whole life was in ski racing. And so I was pretty lucky to have this fallback option kind of Nordic skiing. And like, since I had done enough of it as a kid, and I still liked the endurance side of the training, which a lot of downhill ski racers don't love. I was still like, yeah, I like to ride my bike and I like to run. So let's give this Nordic thing a shot. And it allowed me to like not have to leave the high school and like all my friends and like my community at the time. So I took another like post-grad year to kind of see if I wanted to do it in college, and just like buckled down that year on like training and technique. Did like really intensive technique training, because if you've ever tried Nordic skiing, you know that the technique is extremely difficult. But like with my background and kind of my like natural tendency like towards kind of endurance sports, was able to like pull it off and ski in college, and had an amazing experience doing that. And then really didn't get back into cycling until after college. I moved out west. I got a job at Strava, and like everyone was all into bikes. And I was like, yeah, I like bikes too. Like maybe I could get back into this. So I started riding more again, and Strava started enabling my competitive side. And I kind of borrowed a cyclocross bike from a friend and showed up at a race and was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like,
I was like, who is this girl and why is she
yeah, was like, you know, everything was kind of coming together. I had a lot of residual fitness from obviously like intensive college ski racing, and kind of hadn't lost that yet, and had the background skills from mountain biking growing up, and found my way into the cross scene. And then also gravel, really at the time, like there weren't as many races and it wasn't as popular yet, but a lot of the guys who I would ride with, a few girls too, but it was a lot of guys, would go out in Marin and just do these crazy rides, and I would tag along and just get my butt kicked on a, like, you know, my 1x cross gearing gravel cross bike, but absolutely loved it, just kind of touring around Marin and the trails out there. So that's kind of where I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do more of this.
Yeah, and so we got really lucky before everything shut down this year, and we're able to host our team camp in Marin County. Matt, why did we go to Marin?
Well, I mean, a little unintentionally. Overland came together very much as sort of like the plan behind what the team is, was to find people that were hyped on being part of the community, general long format suffering, you know, the kind of vibe that we are part of a team, and results versus community, we're kind of like, we want there to be more intent around expanding this and making it feel like something that people want to do. Results are nice as well, but the idea that we're all kind of like community builders would be kind of the main point of what Overland is. And that has ended up, because of who we know and how we're related to each other, being a very West Coast oriented team. California being sort of a great place for all of us to drop into. And honestly, like Marin County, some of the best riding that I've done, places that we've all done team camps, something that's accessible to others. You know, one of the main points of what we can share as a team is making this look like something people want to do, and also somewhere that people can get to. It wasn't like we were going to go off and do a team camp in Europe that's kind of like entirely intangible. There's some logistics stuff that's very specific that helps us. One was that literally you could fly into SF area and be in Marin County like that, and it felt like you were still pretty far away from everybody. So the riding alone, we're very lucky. We know a crew of photographers, Zach Pianco from PhotoPace. It's an incredibly diverse group of photographers. Zach had time to come and take photos with us, which is a critical thing. One of our in-house videographers, Nick Kupiak, was able to ride with us and do the photography. And knowing the area and knowing that the Grasshopper was there and being able to do that event, like there's just layer upon layer of why that area was perfect for what we were trying to share. So does that answer it?
It does. I mean, like it was one of those, I remember like Matt and I are emailing and Caitlin and I and trying to figure out like, where are we going to ride? And everybody kept putting together these routes, and every route was just like better and better and better. And it was hard to like figure out where we actually wanted to ride, because like you can't go wrong in Marin County. Like there's so many trails or fire roads that you're like, but I just want to do this one and I want to do this one, but we got to stop at Pelican Inn and grab a beer and some fries, because now we're really hungry too from doing all this stuff.
You're giving away team secrets now, Pelican Inn.
Yeah, that's really how we
pub
feel.
fries.
Well, there's too many people with cameras on that trip. There's no secrets, 0 secrets. The only secret is what?
Training secrets.
Oh. Oh, you thought it was a training camp? No, just kidding. We did like, honestly, I think the big thing was that we did that huge ride the day before we did the Grasshopper, which maybe was a little bit of a choice, but the Grasshopper was like this incredible opportunity also to just see people in the community. That I think something that's interesting about gravel is that the community of cycling and community of events, because gravel feels more accessible to people, you're seeing a lot of the same people that you'd see at crit races, at cyclocross events, but it's drawing them all together to the same events, which is, I think, a unique thing. And you're seeing it at Grasshoppers, even though that one was a full road format. And I was breathing through my eyeballs the entire time, but yeah.
Cursing at photographers at the same time, if I recall.
I always have time for that. That's easy.
You mentioned that race, and back to the esprit de corps, the team and the different atmosphere of the races. Michael's no longer with us as he's motoring across Canada, but I wanted to point out, not only is he Canadian, so he's extra polite, but a friend of mine crashed over the top of Michael, and after they peel each other apart from their machines and whatnot, Michael found my buddy's car key and said, "Hey, is this yours?" It's like, "Yeah, it is," and saved the whole day. And I got to say, I've been in a lot of road crashes, and most riders will put a cleat into you sooner than they will help you get back on your bike and go. And I just wanted to call out what a good job you've done of putting together a fine team of nice racers. That really struck me as something special. So thanks for that, Matt. I mean, we've all ridden enough that the point of the racing is not just to leave people on the side of the road. I mean, we've all been there, I think, is a big component of it. I was at the Peloton magazine gravel race. It was maybe 3 weeks after getting hit by a car. I probably shouldn't have been there, and I crashed and took all the skin off my body. And like 3 people were there immediately to be like, "Are you okay? Like, let's." And I was like, "Well, I won't be holding handlebars anymore." So, like the idea that there's so much support, and it's at these events. There's a great photo. Amity from last year at Belgian Waffle Ride stopped for someone that crashed and broke their collarbone. It's all like, these are all the things that you would expect from a positive community. And I think that there's something about gravel, potentially it's the length and the amount of suffering that people go through. It does come out. And I think, we all try to embody that. And the more that you talk about it, the more we have to, because the next time if I pass someone who's broken a toe, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, at Mid-South this year, it turned into this whole team effort. Caitlin and I, well, first off, I couldn't breathe for the first hour, and we're just like begging Caitlin to not leave me. And we finally got in this groove and rode together for 90 miles. And at mile 90, my chain dropped, and we were sitting in 4th and 5th place at the time. And I was like, Caitlin, just go. I'm like, you can podium. And she's like, I'm not leaving you on the side of the road after 8.5 hours. And it took us
in the freezing cold rain.
Cold rain. It was 40 degrees and we were covered head to toe in cow poop.
It was red clay. Come on.
I'm watching the triathlete take a long drink of his water, listening to this. Like, okay, mile 90, waiting for your teammate. That's a lovely idea, but come on, man. Team director is on this Zoom call right now.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
It took us 45 minutes to get my chain unstuck, and only because at that point we started walking. Caitlin's like, our race is done. It's fine. Let's go find a sag wagon. And there comes Matt pedaling along. And he was the only person, like we had like 10 guys stop for us. He was the only person that could get my chain unstuck.
All right, this brings up lots of questions. Matt was behind you?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were jamming.
Who's the professional cyclist on this call?
I forgot. This was Mid-South, so Matt was, this was Mid-South, so Matt took a chance to put on his Speedo and his goggles again. He was swimming in the mud, wasn't he? That's what it was.
Yeah, that was Hornland on that one. I had to miss that one. But yeah, Matt's there for the experience. That's an early race.
I'm there to help.
I'm sorry, I thought it was Matt Lieto. Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. Right. I'm just coming off my cyclocross season, which means that I'm still slow. I'm still slower than everybody on this team. And as it should, like, you know, we were there, we were in that group, and Caitlin and Carolyn just smashing away. And it's like, you know, it's really cool to sometimes be there with the team as we start. I mean, that's not the point of me being there. The point of me being there is to run support the day before and logistics and that sort of stuff. But if I'm out in the middle of, where were we? Anyway, if we're out in the middle of America, it's definitely like, you know, participate in the event and be there and do what you can. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do all the things and never sleep. I don't think the sleeping is important.
Well, in your defense, you say you're not fast. Cyclocross is fast, and an enduro event or an endurance event like Mid-South is a marathon. So it's the difference between running a 10K or versus a marathon. So don't sell yourself short. You can let your teammates do that for you.
We will do that.
Hey, I'm curious. You know, we're all really fortunate to live on the bike and have friends all over the place. What would you say the most interesting place? Who's got the most exotic or best story of travel induced by bikes?
Oh, it's got to be Lieto.
It kind of isn't, man. I mean, I will say, and we did do a little video on it last year. But for me, what's cool about gravel is that, or a gravel bike and its ability to handle a lot of different terrain, is that you can ride stuff that people wouldn't think existed. So like I've been to Kona every year, but this year for the last 20 years, probably 25 years, either supporting my brother, racing myself, or we'll do commentary for Ironman. And people think the riding there is great, but like they're just on this highway that the race is on, and it's terrible. It's like, I could not think of a worse place to ride a bike. But over the years, I've found a bunch of great road climbs and mixed surface stuff. And like, I think it was 2 years ago, we went out kind of on the other side of the island by Waimea and found like one of the coolest gravel roads I've ever been on. And the day before, I'm in this chaos of Ironman World Championships. And the next day, I'm by myself with cows in like one of the coolest places I've ever been. So it's like, it's a place I had been many, many times before, 25, 30 times in Hawaii, but was able to find a new experience. And I can really, I have a dozen stories like that where you didn't think there was anything cool, but you found yourself in something cool. Like today, on my ride today, literally, I've ridden around that road probably 100 times, but today was the day I found it, something new. So.
It's a good thing to point out. It's everybody calls them gravel bikes, but really they are all-around adventure bikes. You all touched on that when discussing the various terrain you can attack with them. Here in Marin County, I'm just going to go back to where we are right now. Here in Marin County, we have this main thoroughfare called Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, and it runs from Highway 101 all the way out to the coast. And there is so much trail just a few hundred meters off of Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, and you get roadies to try an adventure bike for the first time. And they're like, you're kidding me? This trail I've ridden past here 100 times and never knew there was all this great single track and whoops and wildflowers. And like I said, Kona is a miserable place. It's a racetrack for a triathlon. It really could not, and it's a big factor in the race, but it is miserable for you guys. Yeah. And yeah, it's wonderful that you got to go out to Hawaii and enjoy that because of the adventure on your bike.
No, for sure. And I will second that, Marin. So I grew up in the East Bay and kind of cut teeth riding out there and doing kind of the road rides and all the group rides out in that zone. But we would always, we go to Sonoma, but me and my brother would always go to Marin early season to ride because just the variability of terrain and the riding is so hard. Like you'd go there unfit and you'd ride there for a week and you would leave fit because you have to survive, right? Like you have to adapt. But yeah, of all the places I've been, like the consistent ability to find really cool and interesting terrain, Marin is on the top of the list for sure.
Well, it's nice of you to say. It's actually improved since you left. The efforts of no.
Good one.
Matt's gone. Okay. No, through the efforts of our partners over on the East Bay and also with other organizations, including Marin County Bicycle Coalition, there is actually a bike route on the Richmond Bridge now. So you can ride back and forth between Point Richmond and Marin County. And it's ever improving.
The flyover on Sir Francis Drake is just about completed now. So you don't have to do that kind of sketchy 580 crossing to get onto the Richmond Bridge anymore.
Yeah. A reminder, we're going to go just a little bit longer, but I do want to remind you while you're sitting here or before you go, Marin County Bicycle Coalition, or it's marinbike.org/Lost Summer. Please contribute, enter the giveaway, $10 for entry, win lots of prizes from Easton, or not bicycle garment manufacturers, Velocio, and Mike's Bikes is contributing Specialized Diverge Pro Carbon as well from 2021. So Caroline, back to you.
That's all good. But I think, to your point, like it's pretty amazing, the terrain, and just everything's getting better and better in terms of on-road and off-road access in the area. I have some of my friends that now ride over the Richmond Bridge to get to Marin, and before you had to drive, and or there's people that are now doing like circumnavigating the bay by bike. You still have to kind of take a bus from Treasure Island into San Francisco, but you can almost bike all three bridges fully now, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I used to do that for my commute when I lived in the Oakland Hills for a few years when I was working at Strava. So I would sometimes ride my bike as far as I could and then take that bus from Treasure Island. I was always hoping, someday there'll be a way to connect that. But
so we're all very fortunate that we have a long history in bicycles and in different sports, and you guys are actually quite a varied bunch. It's impressive to think of your sporting backgrounds. I want to know if any of you have grabbed a person who wasn't a cyclist, put them on a bike, and converted them. Caitlin, I'm guessing because of your transition from all your skiing, that's something you may have definitely done that made somebody a cyclist.
Yeah, honestly, like so many people who I kind of grew up and have been friends with for a long time through skiing. I tried back in the day and like people just weren't into it, and now they're like, oh my gosh, like what bike should I buy? Like, and now they're all asking me all the questions.
This is definitely a sign of the times with the pandemic, isn't it? Everybody's bike shops can't keep them in stock. We're all getting people going, and we all know somebody who's got that dusty bike in the garage with flat tires.
Yeah, lots of people I know. Bikes are cooler these days.
Even triathletes are doing it now. That's how cool we are.
That is true. And I will say I'll take credit of transitioning a few triathletes onto cycling, but I won't take the blame. And I think maybe one of my buddies caused that crash at Sweetwater, but let's not get into that.
but you're a great bike handler, Matt. I remember watching you, and for the short amount of time I didn't have you in sight for very long at Rebecca's stage race, but we're being impressed that, you know, for a triathlete, he sits a bike pretty well and rides.
And that's all it is. It's not for a triathlete. It's perfect. It's,
not at all.
That's all I'm shooting for. Work.
Hey, how about how much your other sporting endeavors informed your bicycle riding? Like definitely Caitlin, you know, downhill skiing, alpine skiing really helps you learn how to handle the contours of trails and stuff, and speed for sure, which Caroline attests to from her nightmares. And but you know, I think it's really interesting though, the cross between cycling and other sports. I mean, your skiing is going to improve from cycling and vice versa. What else?
Yeah, I think like, especially with the skiing thing, like choosing lines and mountain biking, and even more importantly, sometimes when you're riding your gravel bike on single track on places you maybe shouldn't.
Underbiking.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely, like so much of that crosses over, and that's like kind of why I always like to do like mountain biking for training for skiing in the summer when I was a kid, and also like I think a lot of the from Nordic skiing, like skate skiing, a lot of the muscles are really similar to cycling, I find. So that's a really great thing that I think a lot of cyclists who live in colder places try to pick up in the winter, so they don't go crazy riding Zwift or whatever indoors too much.
I will say, I don't feel like Nordic skiers get enough credit for, you know, you're talking about downhill skiing, you know, you've got no fear, but descending on Nordic skis is freaking terrifying. It's the most terrifying thing you can ever do.
It's under-skied. It's completely under-skied.
Hard, like pizzaing super hard, trying to like follow her down this hill, and she's like turning and carving like on skis. Like,
it's the most fun because it's like you're totally.
It's fun.
I don't know, just pushing the limits of being in control, just barely, kind of like on a gravel bike on descents. Really similar feeling for sure. Yeah. And Caroline does great. She like has taken to skate skiing so fast. It's been really fun to work with her on like technique and stuff. But she just like has improved so much. It's been so fun to get her into that sport.
Slightly trial by fire. I'm literally beyond. I don't think I've ever suffered as hard as I've suffered on skate skis. Like, no matter what cycling race I've been through, skate is harder.
Yeah. Matt, do you do any of that in Bend? I feel like Bend is a good place for.
If I can avoid it, I certainly will. But no, I mean, I Nordic ski a fair bit. I've gone through ebbs and flows with Nordic skiing. Right now, backcountry skiing is a little bit more fun. I'd rather have a longer kind of meandering hike up than getting my heart rate to 180 as soon as my skis hit snow, like Nordic skiing. But yeah, I get out and have adventures. But Nordic skiing, dude, seriously, it is terrifying. Like the step turns, that's not effective at all. It doesn't even work.
You gotta like perfect the slide.
It's all about drifting, hey?
Yeah, the drift. It's really a drift.
Drifting.
Oh gosh, we're starting to digress. We're gonna start talking about coffee and burritos here in a second, so I need to bring it back in.
Is this off the record?
You know, guys, honestly, I could go on talking to cycling friends for hours, but we have time limits. I have the cheap Zoom account, so I might get cut off any second. Again, Matt, thanks for putting together this wonderful group of folks and wonderful team. Caroline, thanks for being part of Marin County Bicycle Coalition and bringing your team in for a conversation. Mr. Lieto, I hope to see you on the trail sometime soon. Caitlin, I hope I don't get your wheel on a descent anytime soon. I'm going to give a couple thanks to follow. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to give a couple thanks to our sponsors again and let Caroline close it down. But again, I'd like to thank Nolan Law Firm, Mike's
Bay Area Bicycle Law, and the New Wheel.
There you go, Bay Area Bicycle Law and the New Wheel. The New Wheel, in case you don't know, is actually specializes in electric bikes or e-bikes. I ride acoustic myself, but I'm looking forward to about 20 years from now, I'll be riding electric.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, please go to our website, rennbike.org/lostsummer. $10 per entry gives you into a drawing for a Specialized Diverge Carbon Pro donated by Mike's Bikes. Easton's thrown in 3 separate prizes, so you can get a wheel set, a cockpit setup, and a cinch crank set. And Velocio and Ornat have thrown in some swag as well. So huge thank you to everyone who has already contributed. Tell your friends, tell your friends' friends, tell your friends' friends' friends to contribute. This is all going to helping our organization as well as COVID relief efforts for the Canal Alliance and for West Marin Senior Services. Have a wonderful weekend. Go out, ride your bike, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.